You open your banking app on a random Tuesday evening. You just got that promotion 3 months ago, the one you'd been chasing for years. Your salary jumped from $100,000 to $150,000. You're supposed to feel rich now. That's what you told yourself when you signed that new offer letter. And yet here you are, staring at your checking account balance, and somehow, someway, the number looks about the same as it did when you made $50,000 less. What happened? You didn't do anything crazy, no trips to Monte Carlo, no impulse bought sports car, and still, that extra 50 grand, the money that was supposed to change everything, has evaporated into thin air. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. And if it doesn't sound familiar yet, give it time. Because what I'm about to describe is perhaps the most destructive financial force you've never been taught to recognize. It's called lifestyle inflation. And it doesn't break down your door. It picks the lock. Here's the thing nobody tells you about earning more money. Making more doesn't automatically mean having more. In fact, research from Bank of America found that nearly 20% of households earning more than $150,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck. Let that sink in. 1 in 5 households bringing in well into 6 figures still can't get ahead. And if you think that's crazy, a 2025 Goldman Sachs report found that 40% of households earning $500,000 or more still feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck. $500,000 a year and they feel broke. That's not an income problem. That's a behavior problem. And it has a name. Welcome to the channel. I'm James, and I spend a lot of time thinking about the psychology of money. Not just the numbers, but the invisible forces that shape how we make decisions with it. If this kind of deep dive into financial behavior helps you see money differently, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It genuinely helps more people find this content, and it tells me you want more of these conversations. Now, let's get into it. Most people think that financial success is about making more money. Earn enough and all your problems disappear. That's the story we're sold. And look, there's some truth to it. Income matters. But here's where that thinking breaks down. The national personal savings rate in America right now hovers around 4 to 5% of income. That's down from a pandemic high of over 30% when people had nowhere to spend their money. What that tells us is that when money is available, people spend it. Almost all of it. The problem isn't that people don't earn enough. The problem is that their spending automatically adjusts upward to consume every new dollar they earn. Economists call this the lifestyle ratchet. It only turns one way. Let me give you a concrete example. You're earning $100,000 a year. After taxes, you take home roughly $70,000. Your rent is $2,000 a month. Your car payment is $500. You spend about $1,500 on food, utilities, insurance, subscriptions, all that stuff. By the time you're done, maybe you're saving $500 a month. Not great, but you're getting by. Then you get that big raise to $150,000. After taxes, you're now taking home closer to $100,000. That's an extra $30,000 flowing into your life every year, or about $2,500 extra per month. Now what does the average person do? They move to a nicer apartment. The rent goes from $2,000 to $3,000. They get a nicer car. The payment jumps from $500 to $750. They eat out more, upgrade their wardrobe, finally get that gym membership with the sauna. Suddenly, every category of spending has drifted up. It didn't feel like any single decision was a big deal, and yet, when you add it all up, that extra $2,500 a month has been absorbed. The savings rate stays the same, or maybe even drops. This is the silent wealth killer, not a single catastrophic financial decision, but 1,000 tiny upgrades that feel reasonable in isolation. Lifestyle inflation sneaks up on you because it disguises itself as progress. You feel like you're living better. And maybe you are, in some narrow sense. Nicer things, nicer experiences. But the cost of that slightly nicer life is profound, because what you're really spending is your future freedom. Let me show you what I mean with some simple math. Imagine 2 versions of yourself. In the first version, you earn $100,000, and when you get that $50,000 raise, you spend all of it. Your lifestyle matches your income. In the second version, you take that same raise and invest half of it, $25,000 a year, while allowing yourself to enjoy the other half. Same raise, very different outcome. If you invest that $25,000 annually and earn roughly 8% returns, which is the inflation-adjusted long-term average of the stock market going back decades, here's what happens. After 10 years, that invested money has grown to around $360,000. After 20 years, you're sitting on nearly $1 million. $1 million. Just from capturing half of a single raise and letting time do its work. Now compare that to version 1, where you spent every penny. You had a slightly nicer apartment, a slightly nicer car, slightly nicer dinners. But at the end of 20 years, you have nothing extra to show for it. Zero additional net worth. Same salary, same raise. $1 million difference. That's the true cost of lifestyle inflation. And look, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying you should never upgrade your life. That would be absurd. Money is a tool, and part of its purpose is to improve how you live. The problem isn't spending more when you earn more. The problem is spending everything you earn, automatically, without intention. It's the unconscious drift that kills you. Let me talk about why this happens, because understanding the psychology is key to breaking the pattern. There are 3 main forces that push us toward lifestyle inflation. The first is what I call the entitlement mindset. I worked hard for this. I earned it. I deserve it. Sound familiar? Of course it does. We all feel this way after a big accomplishment. And you know what? You probably do deserve something nice. But here's the trap. That logic has no ceiling. Every single time you get a raise, you'll feel like you deserve it. Every bonus, every promotion. If deserving becomes your justification for spending, you'll spend forever. You'll always feel entitled to the next upgrade because you'll always be working hard for something. The second force is comparative living. This one is brutal because it operates almost entirely below conscious awareness. You get promoted, and now you're in meetings with people who drive nicer cars. You move to a nicer neighborhood, and now your neighbors have finished basements and backyard decks. You join a new social circle, and suddenly everyone's taking trips to Europe twice a year. And without even realizing it, your reference point shifts. What used to feel like luxury now feels normal. What used to feel normal now feels inadequate. Your expectations expand, and when expectations expand, spending follows. The third force is the assumption that higher income means higher spending is appropriate. This one is sneaky because it sounds logical. Of course someone earning $200,000 should spend more than someone earning $50,000. That makes sense, right? But the question isn't whether you can afford to spend more. The question is whether you should. Every dollar you spend is a dollar that isn't compounding. Every upgrade to your lifestyle today is a trade-off against your options tomorrow. Just because you can afford the $3,000 apartment doesn't mean it's the right move. Now here's where I want to connect this to something I talk about a lot on this channel. The concept of invisible thresholds. If you've watched my other videos, you know I'm fascinated by these psychological milestones that fundamentally change how people relate to money. The first $10,000 in savings. The first $20,000. The first $100,000. These numbers matter not just because of what they can buy, but because of what they represent about your habits and your identity. Avoiding lifestyle inflation is one of those invisible thresholds. The moment you demonstrate to yourself that you can earn more without spending more, something shifts inside you. You prove that you're in control of your money, not the other way around. You prove that your sense of self-worth isn't tied to your stuff. That's a profound psychological upgrade, far more valuable than any material purchase. Think about what it takes to resist lifestyle creep. You have to actually track your spending. You have to be willing to say no to upgrades that all your peers are saying yes to. You have to delay gratification when the world is telling you to enjoy it now. These aren't just financial skills, they're life skills. The person who can do this is the person who can also stick to a workout plan when motivation fades. The person who can focus on a long-term project when short-term distractions abound. The person who can make hard choices for the right reasons. When you reach this threshold, where you consistently invest your raises before you inflate your lifestyle, you've fundamentally changed your trajectory. You've moved from the vast majority of Americans who expand spending to match income to the small minority who are actually building wealth. And trust me, it shows. Not right away, not in flashy ways, but over years and decades, the gap becomes a canyon. Here's another shift that happens when you control lifestyle inflation. You start seeing opportunities instead of just threats. When you're spending everything you earn, any financial surprise is a crisis. The car breaks down and you're scrambling to cover it. A medical bill hits and you're going into debt. An opportunity to invest in your career, take a class, go to a conference, gets passed over because there's no margin. Your financial life becomes entirely reactive. But when you've captured some of those raises and built real savings, everything changes. That car problem? You just handle it. That medical bill? Annoying, but manageable. That conference across the country that could advance your career? You can say yes. Opportunities start appearing everywhere because you have the resources to actually pursue them. This extends to your career in powerful ways. Have you ever heard the term walk-away money? It's the financial cushion that allows you to say no to bad situations at work. A toxic boss, a dead-end role, an unreasonable demand. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have no leverage. You need that job. They know it, you know it. Every negotiation starts from a position of weakness. But when you've been saving aggressively, when you've got 6 months or a year of expenses set aside, you can make different choices. You can push back on that unfair policy. You can ask for that raise without fear. You can walk away from the job that's draining your soul and take time to find something better. This isn't about being reckless. It's about having options. And options come from margin. Margin comes from resisting lifestyle inflation. Now, I want to talk about where people typically blow it, because even people who start out with good intentions often stumble. The first trap is treating a financial milestone as a spending reward. You hit $100,000 in savings, and you feel like you can finally relax. You earned this after all. Time for that trip. Time for that car. And before you know it, you're back to $20,000 in savings, wondering what happened. The second trap is upgrading too soon. You get the raise, and immediately you're shopping for a bigger apartment. But here's the thing. You haven't even experienced what it feels like to earn this much while keeping your old lifestyle. You haven't given compound interest any time to work. You've made the spending decision before you fully understood what you were giving up. The third trap is car decisions. And I know I talk about this a lot, but it's because the numbers are so stark. The average new car payment in America is now over $700 a month. $745 to be precise, according to Experian data from early 2025. That's nearly $9,000 a year just in payments, not counting insurance, gas, maintenance, and registration. Over the life of a typical 70-month loan, plus all those extra costs, a single car can easily consume over $100,000. That's money that could have compounded for decades. For most people, their car is their biggest wealth destroyer. The fourth trap is housing decisions. Housing is usually the single largest expense in anyone's budget, and when income goes up, the temptation to move somewhere nicer is overwhelming. But here's the thing. Housing is sticky. When you sign that lease or mortgage for the bigger place, you're locking in that higher expense for years, and all the other expenses that come with it. Higher utilities, more furniture to fill the space, more stuff to fill the closets. One housing upgrade can cascade into dozens of smaller upgrades. Let me give you a framework for avoiding these traps. It's simple, but it works. Whenever you get a raise, follow this sequence. First, before you spend a single extra dollar, increase your automatic savings. If you were saving $500 a month, bump it to $1,000. If you were investing through your 401k at 6%, push it to 10%. Do this immediately, before the money ever hits your checking account. What you never see, you don't miss. Second, wait. Give yourself at least 3 months before making any lifestyle upgrades. Experience what it feels like to save the difference. Watch your account balances grow. Feel the psychological shift that comes from building real wealth. Only then, after you've captured a meaningful portion of that raise and waited long enough to gain perspective, consider whether any upgrade actually makes sense. Third, when you do upgrade, be strategic about it. Pick 1 or 2 areas that genuinely matter to you, the things that bring disproportionate happiness, and allow yourself to spend more there, but ruthlessly cut everywhere else. Don't upgrade everything. That's how lifestyle creep works, through 1,000 tiny decisions that individually seem harmless. Instead, be intentional. Spend more where it counts. Stay flat or even decrease where it doesn't. Fourth, focus on big decisions over small ones. This is crucial. People get obsessed with cutting their coffee habit or canceling a $10 subscription. And look, those things add up over time. But they're noise compared to the big 3: housing, transportation, and savings rate. If you get those right, the small stuff barely matters. If you get those wrong, no amount of frugality on lattes will save you. Let me give you a sense of scale here. Let's say you give up buying coffee out and make it at home. You might save $5 a day, or about $1,500 a year. Not nothing, but not life-changing. Now compare that to what happens if you keep the modest car when your income doubles, instead of upgrading to a luxury vehicle. You might save $400 a month, or nearly $5,000 a year. And if you invest that difference over 20 years at 8% returns, you're looking at nearly $250,000. One decision. A $250,000 impact. That's the difference between micro-optimizing and making the decisions that actually matter. Now, I want to acknowledge something. Avoiding lifestyle inflation is hard. Really hard. You're swimming against a powerful cultural current. Everyone around you is upgrading. Social media is full of people showing off their new stuff. The advertising industry spends hundreds of billions of dollars a year trying to make you feel like what you have isn't enough. And here's the darkest part. Your own brain is working against you too. We habituate to our circumstances. The fancy apartment that thrilled you at first becomes your new normal within months. The nice car that made you feel proud fades into the background of daily life. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, and it means that lifestyle upgrades provide diminishing returns. The happiness boost from any purchase is temporary, but the financial cost is permanent. So what do you do instead? You invest in things that actually move the needle on long-term well-being. Experiences over things, especially experiences with people you care about. Your health, which pays dividends for decades. Your skills and earning power, which is the one investment that can never lose value. Your relationships, which study after study shows are the strongest predictor of life satisfaction. And your financial independence, the peace of mind that comes from knowing you're building something that will last. Let me leave you with this. The person you become while resisting lifestyle inflation is worth more than any of the stuff you didn't buy. You become someone who can delay gratification. Someone who thinks in decades, not days. Someone who doesn't need external validation to feel successful. Someone who has options that others don't. Someone who is building real, lasting wealth while everyone around them is running on a treadmill. Because here's the truth. Most people will spend their entire lives earning more and more while having nothing more to show for it. They'll look back at 40 or 50 or 60 and wonder where it all went. The raises, the bonuses, the windfalls, all absorbed by a lifestyle that expanded just fast enough to consume everything. You don't have to be that person. You can choose differently. It starts with awareness. It starts with seeing lifestyle inflation for what it is, the silent wealth killer that operates in the shadows. And once you see it, you can fight it. You can capture your raises before they disappear. You can build the margin that creates options. You can become the person who earns more and keeps more. That's not deprivation. That's power. Real power. The kind no one can take from you. Alright, that's what I've got for you today. I want to hear from you in the comments. What's the biggest lifestyle upgrade you made after a raise that you later regretted? Or, flip it around, what's something you resisted buying even when you could afford it, and how did that decision play out? Drop your story below. I read every single comment and I love hearing from this community. If this video changed how you think about money even a little bit, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps the channel more than you know. I'll see you in the next one.